Anyway, yeah. Fear End, greatest podcast in the world, baby. Let's go. It's a shame you are seemingly the only political figure that gets widespread criticism. Maybe it's time to fight back. No, it's not. I mean, you can do it if you want, but the greatest thing to do in that situation is the charm offensive, folks. That's it. It's just like showing the positives and pushing out the negativity, and obviously if there's misinformation you can correct it, but beyond that, that's it. I don't think Hasanabi has listened to the New York Times the daily. I used to. I haven't really, except for that time you had Chapo on and Matt riff for like 30 minutes. Yeah. Will you be contributing? They're calling you a young Che Guevara. Bro, these memes are funny and all, but like people take it so seriously. Yeah, Misha's back at it again, folks. Schizzarella. The fact that he literally begged Hassan to send military aid and his refusal to send anything was the highlight of the stream. Just a reminder, Hassan has a net worth of $50 million. True. The attack on Pearl Harbor cost only $30 million. At Hassan, I like that she didn't. She just added at Hassan. If you actually have a shred of shame in your body, here's a list of aid that you can buy with your net worth. Hope this helps. 1,000 torpedoes, $20 million. 2,000 sea mines, $15 million. 50 seaplanes, $10 million. 20,000 subscribers / crew, free. Yeah. The issue is, I think this made people go absolutely crazy. Like there was OSINT Twitter liberals. Obviously, this person is clearly joking. Okay. And if you genuinely think this account has ever posted anything seriously, please re-examine your priorities and the way you see the world. However, obviously, the people, Houthis, or not the Houthis, sorry, the OSINT Twitter, I don't know why I said the Houthis. OSINT Twitter went nutty with it. There was like actual unironic OSINT Andes, open source intelligence, for those of you who don't know what OSINT is, the guys who are always like, I'm looking at a map. I'm cracking a Red Bull and a cold one, and I'm looking at some maps, baby. I'm doing flight tracker. Obviously, we have OSINT Twitter's very own Elent News in the chat all the time. I mean, he's a valuable source. He's got good information. But, not all OSINT Twitter is equal. All right? Some of them not so equal. Some of them more equal than others. So, you called it, by the way. I'm not a liberal. I'm a progressive. What does this guy say? I can't see it. Did he block me? I made fun of this guy. Because I said, because he had like a tweet where it was like, yeah, I think he blocked me. He had a tweet where he was just like, dude, I can't believe you talked to a dude in Yemen. Like, you're a fucking piece of shit. I can't, like, I made my stance clear. Like, even if he was straight up like, I'm a fucking Houthi Ansar Allah defender, I'm like, yeah, no, I want to hear this person's perspective. This is a very normal interview to conduct. And in order to get him to open up, I'm going to say stuff like, what kind of anime do you watch? He's 19 years old. So don't care if you don't like it. You can suck my dick. Even if he's a Houthi, I'm going to ask him that, right? So regardless, his anger was like, oh my God, dude, like, I can't believe you took a child slaver guy who single-handedly restored slavery. Okay. And I just said, love when libs present themselves as intellectually superior to conservatives or empathetic, and then go on a racist rant about how a 19-year-old Arab dude from Yemen is a fan of child soldiers and slavery when he never said anything of the sort. How dare I humanize him? And, many people are saying, like, you're cute watching him. You're cute watching him. And it's like, bro, I think you're the one who's seeing him as cute. But yeah, apparently he got very upset that I called him a liberal. He said he is a progressive and then blocked me. It seems. This whole slavery thing about Yemen is so random and disturbing from a meta perspective. It's not grounded in any reality. Yes. The Yemen slavery equivalent in America would be, here, I'll give you like an anti-Semitic example. Looking at the Chabad tunnels in New York and being like, all Jews do is make tunnels, and then a whole bunch of other nonsensical bullshit, like applying it to the entirety of a religion. Okay? Like that's all they do. Ooh, what do they have in the tunnels? Like there was plenty of that weird anti-Semitic nonsense all over Twitter when the Chabad tunnels came out, which was like a fun story for 3.5 seconds until like Nazis took it over and immediately were like, "This is what Jews do. Like they make tunnels," which is fucking insane. Like that's not a thing at all. You are. It's like looking at the Amish, as I've said, and extrapolating that every, I guess, American of Dutch descent is anti-technology. Anyway, let me blast off. I forgot. If you're gonna be speaking on Pakistan, I know Arunano is around. He knows about what's happening and would be good for that insight. Yeah, we'll do that. Amish are not Dutch; they're German, but they call themselves Dutch, Deutsch, which is why Anglos thought they were Dutch. Okay, my bad. German. Um, bro, people were trying to cancel him. Yeah, it's funny because like people are upset because I think he posted like a Abu Ubaidah speech, and in it Abu Ubaidah says some shit like he says like son of Jews or whatever, which is anti-Semitic, right? For sure. Like especially from a Western framework. If someone in the West says that, I'm like, okay, dog, what the fuck are you talking about? Right? And like it's been, I don't know if it's like a correct translation or not, doesn't matter, right? Like even if he himself is fucking anti-Semitic, it's like people are trying to cancel this dude who is a 19-year-old living in fucking Yemen. Okay. And I'm like, all right, go off. You know what I mean? I tried to get his perspective on Jewish anti-Zionists, which he said he didn't have an issue with at all, that he was in support of. But also beyond that, like, I was like, how do you feel about America bombing your country? And he's just like, I don't give a shit. So what are you gonna do with that guy? You know what I mean? What are you gonna do with that guy? What are you gonna do with a guy who's like, they're trying to, America is already trying to cancel him. Yeah, he said son of a Jewish woman in his speech. That's part of your referencing. I don't know, but people like clipped it and were like, this guy is anti-Semitic, which he could be. You know what I mean? But of course, nobody fucking watched it. I mean, people are chirping about it, but of course they didn't watch it. And then the funniest part about it was like people trying to compare it to like me interviewing Osama bin Laden. Like, oh, dude, you would cutie pie Osama bin Laden. And it's really funny. It's really funny to get really mad at that and be like, wow, I can't believe Hassan would agree with Osama bin Laden. And it's like, yeah, you couldn't come up with like, you couldn't just like tackle the issue on the actual boundaries that the issue exists in. So you had to like make up another thing. It's like, wow, can't believe you interviewed this guy. Well, guess what? What if you interviewed another guy who's really bad, right? These things are equivalent in this made up scenario I made up in my mind. And it like masks itself as like just a humorous quip, but it's like the person behind it, the person behind the meme is like crying. But yeah. Also, if I did interview Osama bin Laden, I 1000% would ask him about his anime collection because that shit is genuinely interesting. Sorry, don't agree with him, but I want to know what the fuck's going on with the anime collection. Okay. You know what I mean? Also, the CNN literally did interview Osama bin Laden and he called for a jihad in that interview. I would also talk to Osama bin Laden about tall people stuff. I like that in the minds of liberals, however, random 19-year-old teenager in Yemen, who most of his life is just being genocided, equals Osama bin Laden. like dog, that's an insane thing. That is like, that you might as well be wearing a clan robe if you're saying that. But of course, because it's Islamophobia and it's like a out there kind of situation, a lot of Americans don't have a course correction on this kind of thing, where they don't think about it from that framework. They're like, oh, dude, you're a Muslim guy, Osama bin Laden. Like, I feel like there's a range of things, right? You have like TikToker, random Yemeni TikToker. You have random Yemeni TikToker that offers support to Ansar Allah or the Houthis in general. Okay, could be that as well. You have TikToker slash guy who directly is a militant in Ansar Allah. Okay, you have like there's a wide variety of things. You have TikToker who's also or rather directly a fucking militant of Ansar Allah that is engaging in like wars and in battles and has like fought against the Saudi movement in Yemen as well, in South Yemen or the UAE. Okay. And then you have, I don't know, I feel like you have, you know, commanders, actual people that have committed suicide attacks on directly civilian populations, guys who have like orchestrated said suicide attacks, CIA assets that are also working as a separatist. And then you arrive at like the greatest anti-communist turned anti-American of all time, Osama bin Laden. I mean, you even have like Muhammad Atta before you get to Osama bin Laden, right? And these motherfuckers are like, no, that's it. That's the same. The guy in the first point, the guy in the first group, same as Osama. Which was fun. They are convinced what you're doing is terrorism, trying to report you to the FBI in all seriousness. Yeah, here's what I have for that. Here's my response to that, okay? To the people who are very bent out of shape, I saw this, I think it was on the no-no subreddit, but this is the greatest response I've seen to this issue. You should see his Discord. It takes 2 minutes to see encouraging violence / terrorism. If anyone sees that, report it to law enforcement ASAP. Hassan's community is a breeding ground for extremism and should probably be watched. First of all, as if it's not being watched. That's pretty funny. This guy goes, yeah, man, get him. But seriously, calling the police because you saw some teenager saying Houthis giga chat is the funniest thing I've read today. Me about to get 5150'd, explaining to a cop how the chat emotes are calling for terrorism. It's like, hello, police? What do you do with the people who's actively trying to normalize bigotry, racism, ableism, and Islamophobia? They openly admit they are and expect no criticism. Sarah Margaret, I love you. Okay, I'm not going to click on your Google Doc. Okay, thank you for writing an article about me, but I'm not gonna. I'm afraid I'm not gonna be clicking on the Google Doc at this very moment. Okay. When the article comes out for the magazine, you can snap a pic of it, post it on Twitter, link it in that direction. You know what I mean? But right, let's read your Discord comments live. Why would I ever do that? There's a reason why I rarely ever frequent my Discord. If I rarely ever frequent my own Discord, why would you go to my Discord just to get mad? You are only reading bad faith criticism. It's fine. It's not making me mad. That's what the most important part about it is. All right. The stream fell off. You used to click on random links. Yeah. That possibly have malware in it. Yeah. Okay. Biden admits bombing Yemen isn't working, but also won't stop. Poop socks changed you? Yeah, I know. They did. Yeah, but you should respond only to real criticism because you are sometimes wrong. In this way, it creates a bubble. You are only reading bad faith criticism. Okay, give me good faith criticism. People that say, dude, you never read good faith criticism. I ask for good faith criticism all the time. And then the good faith criticism is always the same as the bad faith criticism. And it oftentimes devolves into the same thing that, you know, Republicans used to say back in my Discord days when I used to duke it out with random fans, right? I would be like, hop in the Discord, and then I would duke it out with them. And then the Republicans in the chat would be like, well, that guy was stupid. I would do a much better job. And then I'd have him on, and then they would do the same thing. And then I'd duke it out with another guy. And then that the other guy would be like, well, that guy was not smart enough. I got it. I got this. And it just, was was a repeat over and over again. Do you genuinely think the Houthis translate to the Straw Hats from One Piece? Because I feel like Chad took that seriously if it was supposed to be a meme. Yes, of course it's a meme. One is an anime, the other is a real world situation. Like, will you be playing Pal World? It's about labor and vegans. I will not be playing Pal World, I don't think. The interview could have been much more interesting. It felt like you went into the interview wanting to like the guy and wanting to get the guy to be liked by chat. Humanizing him will be fine, but being able to interview such a guy is a great opportunity. In my opinion, there were much more interesting questions to ask. That's actually a really good take. And I do agree with you 1000%. If you want to know why it didn't become more interesting, I guess, I do think that that is good faith criticism. And I agree with you. The language barrier and the fact that it was last minute at 3 a.m. his time and his level of comfort was what was more important to me. Like people think that I was gonna like debate him or something about whether or not he participated in child slavery, which is ridiculous. Of course, that was never gonna happen. But my goal in that situation was to, get him to open up. That's why I talked about the One Piece stuff. You know what I mean? Because I was like, I wanted to know what kind of shit he watches. You know what I mean? Like, what does he do for fun? The reason why I wanted to know that was because, well, one, I'm genuinely curious about it. And two, I also want people to understand that these guys that we automatically suspect are like bad people, terrorists. Like, what is that distinction? Like, is that a real person? What does a real person do? I don't think a lot of Americans, even young Americans, ever see that beyond the Bizons and the Motazes of the world. Do you also think he had a handler on the side or weirdly media trained? I I think he was very respectful, and I think he did not broach certain subjects. And even I myself said that I was shocked at his answers from time to time. However, I don't think that a 19-year-old is like media trained. I don't think that like a random 19-year-old is like actually media trained. I think that's just like how he is. I think he was sincere but also nervous. That's what it felt like. Does that make sense? Here's one. I think you were too eager to attribute blame to Israel in the hospital bombing that happened back in the early weeks of the bombing. Yes, I know they had already bombed the hospital prior, but you really dug your heels on it. And many of us knew it would look real bad if it turned out not to be Israel's doing. I promise this is a, in my mind, good faith criticism. Okay, that's a good faith criticism. Here's my answer to that. There's currently only one working hospital in Gaza. The assumption that not myself alone, but BBC and everyone else made is a perfectly valid assumption to make. And still to this day, we do not know what the actual situation on the ground was. And it's, I'm sorry, Israel has lied every single step of the way. There are no working hospitals remaining inside of Gaza. The Al Ahli Hospital is a phenomenal example of what the Western world focuses on, right? People are confusing good faith with being useful idiots. I think so. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it's also funny because like actual journalists think the interview was a banger and thought it was great. I don't think you really dug your toes in on it. You quite literally mentioned that we don't know for sure from the very beginning. Yes. Not only that, not only that, but also um like my assessment of the situation was that even if it's not Israel's doing, which there is a likelihood that it might not have been that, um a marginal likelihood that it might not have been that. The notion that Israel would never bomb a hospital is so psychotic. And the fact that the media cared more about Israel's criticisms of Western media for even daring to make the assertion that Israel would bomb a hospital while Israel maintained its steady bombing campaign on both that hospital and every other hospital since then is crazy. Yeah, that is actually a banger analogy. It's like focusing on one victim in a mass shooting that may have occurred due to a ricochet or friendly fire when we have clear evidence of the perp hurting 20 plus other people. Or it's like literally saying every single civilian died in the hands of IDF. Here, I'll flip the script. Every single civilian died on October 7th, died in the hands of the IDF. The Hamas or other, other Palestinian militants would never kill civilians, right? And then pointing to the October 7, like the Dahia doctrine, the October 7 Dahia doctrine principle to be like, no, I'm telling you, like, Israel would never kill its own civilians. I mean, sorry, Hamas would never kill civilians. So it must be Israel's own doing. I promise this is good faith. Number one reason I see people leaving the stream is your Ukraine takes and sometimes your Taiwan takes. I'm not sure if there's much we can do to return them, but to be honest, it sucks. Yes, there's nothing I can do. History will absolve me. That's it. No, it is true. This guy's right. He's right. I don't think that this person is wrong. Yeah, don't say uh-oh. You're absolutely correct. Sometimes you need to be better about correcting past statements that you made in the past that turned out to be wrong. Does that count as good faith? I always do that. Unless you have an issue with a statement that I've made that I haven't corrected myself on. My biggest complaint is that it kind of hurt credibility. Credibility of what? There is no way that I can maintain credibility when there are thousands of people that are deliberately saying that I'm pro-Russia. And if you have actually been here for longer than 5.5 seconds, you would know that I've never been pro-Russia. I think that the Ukraine situation is a damned if you do, damned if you don't type beat, because like America and European countries are basically reducing support very publicly to Ukraine because they want to full-throatedly defend Israel's current genocidal campaign in Gaza. And the worse it gets, yeah, I mean,
wait,
I did
do you still
openly
think that the invasion isn't going to happen? Not trolling, just joining. I think that the peacekeeping mission is like literally that's it. That's overtaking eastern Ukrainian territories. That's absolutely invasion. That is happening. I was wrong. I assumed that we could actually have diplomatic talks. I'm wrong. I was wrong. I did not even think that Russia would take over eastern territories. And
there you go. I mean, by the way, that was February 22nd, 2022, like since the day of the invasion. 100% it hurt your credibility. It's why I said about correcting hater videos, but I don't get why you don't talk about it. My friend, I just told you, like even in this video and even in that entire week, we put the Vladimir Putin is bad logo on the screen. It's on the screen. What are you talking about? It's been 2 years. The only thing that was wrong was that I made the assessment off of what Zelensky was personally saying. I made the assessment off of what Russian people were saying. I made the assessment off of what Ukrainian people were saying. People can rewrite that history all day, every day. I apologize for it, and we moved on. The problem is, no matter what happens, like even though the Western world very openly every step of the way proved me right, people are also hardliners. People are also hardliners on this position. They've already dug their heels in. So the worse the situation happens in Ukraine, the more people will yell at me over it because they don't want to go back and recognize, you know? Please don't rehash this shit. These are not good faith chatters. No, I think they are. I think there's a very real amount of people that are in this community that watch the videos of people that are, doing obviously bad faith attacks, and they get duped into believing it. One of the most unfortunate parts about being like a baby progressive is that you're really doughy-eyed, and certain things certain things that can manipulate you quickly. Like the Yemen slavery one, I think is a great example. Like liberals will move quick to be like pulling out of Afghanistan is bad because Afghan women. And then they try to put you in a bind to justify maintaining the occupation in Afghanistan, right? And you go, well, but I like women. I think women should be protected. So wait, what? Maybe you're right. The Taliban are actually ruthless against women. What are we supposed to do? Oh no. And that is how it works. Is how it operates. So I do believe 100% a lot of people that are in here watch that kind of stuff and do get manipulated into legitimately thinking that like I am. You bring up this Ukraine shit almost once a week for 2 fucking years. You read this shit a million fucking times and no one fucking cares because it's not about being consistent. These liberal debate lords are just as stupid as every other generation of Americans who turn a blind eye to the current injustices. Okay, but I don't want to cut them off. I want to be charitable and I want to make people understand my position. I have a piece of good faith criticism. I really dislike when you pop the fuck off on new chatters and gray names who, in my view, are truly being curious and open-minded. I know you get a lot of bad faith chats, so it's hard to tell between them. I know this is precisely the reason why I'm trying to be more chill this year and be more charitable to those in the chat. And I think I've been maintaining that pretty well so far. I haven't done that in the past 18 days. We got too many greasy loser drama YouTubers making videos on you. And those videos are kind of popping off. I'm not saying you're wrong about your coverage of Israel, but I also think you should try to remain an air of neutrality when covering stories when a clear picture isn't there yet. Like not pretend to be neutral between the two sides, but at least don't assume blame when there isn't a precedent for it. Like I already mentioned, I think that it would be an injustice to actual coverage for me to look at a hospital that Israel had bombed 2 days prior, have the guys on the ground, the doctors say Israel has been calling us, and for me to go, I wonder who did this. We still don't know, which ironically I did. I did say that. I said there's still a likelihood that this might not be Israel, but that likelihood in my assessment is low. That's it. Even when there is precedent. Yeah, no, I'm not. I think it would be ridiculous for me to sit there and tell you what I don't believe. That's it. Like nothing about my assessment of the Israel-Palestine issue has not changed. And if your framework has changed in that time frame because you were like, well, there was a likelihood that this might not have been Israel, and Hassan said it was actually Israel, and then he said it might not be Israel either, but I didn't even hear that part. And I also personally think that like that is the worst crime here and not the crime of genocide that Israel is currently engaging in. Then the reality is I can't do much more than that. You know what I mean? This is the distinction between someone coming in here and asking a question in good faith that is a microaggression, right? I have a level of charitability to those who are coming in with standard questions that people have. There's a standard level of bigotry that I think is understandable due to our environment, right? But there's also a boundary there. If that boundary is met and passed, right? I'm not going to, I'm going to tell you what my genuine, truthful opinion is, and I'm probably not going to back down from it. But I do want people to ask me questions and be, and be a little bit nicer. But whenever people come in and are spamming, basically spamming stuff like, oh, Pallywood is real, like Hamas fucked around, then find out. Like in that situation, like that breaks the boundary. If people this far out after Israel has destroyed every single hospital, pretty much with the exception of one in Gaza, are still talking about the Al Ahli hospital, when Israel also lied about Al Shifa and said Al Shifa had the Hamas headquarters underneath it, and then even said they didn't bomb Al Shifa, and then it turns out that they definitely did bomb Al Shifa, and then and then claimed that there was a Hamas headquarters underneath it. And then they didn't really find anything underneath it that was all too serious. And we just kind of forgot and moved on. It's kind of hard for, I think it's kind of hard for me to sit here and act like, I have to capitulate to those who come in with that overwhelming amount of like liberal information that they've slammed in there that has normalized their position. Even if that is the normative position, and unfortunately in the United States of America, especially for news watchers and news consumers, that certainly is the normative position that like Israel is infallible. And yeah, sure, they get stuff wrong sometimes, but ultimately they're trying their very best. Like that is the vibe that you get. Is silly. I'm sorry. I want you to. I want to be as nice as I can, and I think I am. But there is definitely a level that I will not go beyond. Here, Elant News says people obsessing over Al Ahly when we have numerous examples of Israeli strikes they've admitted to, which have confirmed casualties substantially higher than that strike, and provides clear examples of Israel's reckless targeting, which constitute war crimes. Then people wonder why you and others have an initial conclusion when an explosion occurs. Yeah, there's a reason why the BBC, CNN, New York Times, and Al Jazeera all immediately suspected Israel of doing this bombing at Al Ahly, right? And I personally believe one of the worst things that they all collectively did was let the next 2 weeks of coverage be overtaken by accusations of anti-Semitism for making that assessment, and then genuinely changing their style guide to use way more neutral language that doesn't just take the blame away from Israel, but behaves as though Israel is a cop in a police shooting situation. Like the amount of headlines that I've read since then that always say like explosion occurs, casualties of Palestinians by the hundreds. Yeah. I didn't make up this assertion on my own. I came to this conclusion off of the articles that I read and the readily available information at the time, while also overqualifying over and over again over the course of a 10-hour broadcast. Of course, over the course of a 10-hour broadcast, after responding to the 15th bad faith guy who says Israel would never actually bomb a hospital, yeah, I'm going to pop off on them and be like, you're a genocidal piece of shit. Because I do think that a person that says Israel would never bomb a hospital is a genocidal piece of shit. They are defending Israel's genocide. Israel, in my assessment, and in the assessment of genocide scholars, Holocaust historians, international assessors, the United Nations, and perhaps the International Court of Justice, as a matter of fact. Let's see how that goes. And Human Rights Watch and other NGOs is one, an apartheid state, and two, currently absolutely operating with genocidal intent and following through on their interest in conducting an ethnic cleansing campaign. That's it. If you're this far out and still confused by things of this nature, that's not. If you're still this far out and confused by those factually accurate assessments, then I don't know if I can ever change your mind, really. I hope that one day you will see the error in your ways, though. I think that, eventually you will. I'm softly curious why IDF would just try to justify an act that they reject that they committed. I think the tunnels under the hospital argument was crafted just so the media found better and more conclusive evidence or public opinion changed, and then they would have the civilian shields argument. Yeah. Here's another great example. Remember when everybody yelled at me specifically about the from the river to the sea? Okay. Which, by the way, once people started dunking on it, it seems like I-24 News deleted it or something. I don't know what's happening. Benjamin Netanyahu literally said on I-24 on the broadcast that, from the west of the Jordan, the entire area will be controlled by Israel, reaffirming a part of the Likud charter. Now, of course, remember, everybody was yelling at me, saying I'm ridiculous.
For
this.
30 years. I
Saying I'm ridiculous for saying that, like, from the river to the sea Palestine will be free is not genocidal rhetoric, because it's not. It's not genocidal rhetoric. When Palestinians say it, it's not genocidal rhetoric. Okay? When Israel says it, it is genocidal rhetoric. For quite a time now, for quite a long time, it made me feel like I was crazy, that I could see things so clearly, and yet people would come in and act like the things I could see clearly, and maybe you could too, were actually false. By the way, I forgot to even fucking blast off at this point. All right. I think that a lot of people have no clear convictions that in this process, and simply, unfortunately, champion whatever whoever is like making a very charismatic case. And for a very long time, I benefited from being relatively unknown and not like the beacon of all things left. So people, when they came in to the community, were much more charitable to what I had to say. Okay? I get some of your haters are deranged, but a good portion have some legitimate criticisms, and every single one of those videos pop off. They do. They do pop off because they masquerade as good faith criticism when it's actually bad faith. I'm sorry. I'm trying to respond to everything that you've said so far, but you haven't really brought anything forward that is good faith. Or at least, like, you haven't shown me who you think has legitimate criticisms or what those legitimate criticisms are. I'm looking for it. This is not something I shy away from. We do self-crit in here, and I do openly admit when I'm wrong. Probably one of the worst things to do, really. But you haven't really addressed what you're talking about. And yes, those niche videos do pop off. People with like 10K subs can do a fuck Hassan video, and it will get elevated by every single one of the communities that despises me. So many people's politics have basically turned into, I am against whatever Hassan says they are, says he's in support of. So, like, I think sometimes you're very quick to pop off on someone who just wants clarification. Okay, you're right about that. And I said that this is something that I am trying to get better at. And for the past 18 days, I haven't done that. And I think I'm doing very well. I would go so far as to say that you're currently testing my patience, and yet notice how I haven't yelled at you. But you didn't mention anything else. You said, I guess some of your haters are deranged, but a good portion have some legitimate criticisms. Every single one of those videos pop off. I promise I'm being good faith. I'm just trying to help regrow the community, is what you said. A lot of those people are never going to come back. We must move on from the idea that those who think I'm pro-Russia, those who think I think China should kill everyone in Taiwan or whatever, or those who think that I fly around in private jets, those who think that I've engaged in sex trafficking of minors, you know what I mean? Like there's a degree of things that people are very upset about, and they're all equally insane, in my opinion. And it varies from things that other normal content creators would do that no one would even think twice about. But when I do it, it's completely unacceptable, all the way to straight up lies, all the way to, bastardized positions that make it seem like I'm the exact opposite of what I actually believe in, all the way to like insane, actionable, like legally actionable defamation. So a multitude of all of those concepts together create the overall air of toxicity. Okay? All of that creates an air of toxicity, and there's not much I can do about it. I think your hater skepticism come from your confidence and firm delivery of the message. Some people want an unsure, unknowledgeable, and unserious seamer so they can see a reflection of themselves. That's not true. I think all of the people that despise me are very confident in their approach, even if they're completely oblivious to the facts of the matter. Yeah. So that's it. If anything, I do also agree would make our jobs easier if you had a whole video debunking shit. We could just timestamp in correct mode when assholes start lying, just like you did with the one saying Armenian genocide happened, so we can quickly debunk them with your own words. All of those videos exist. All of those videos exist. My answer to you guys, if you're confused on any particular matter, is go to my YouTube, type in whatever the keyword is that you're trying to find, and show them that video. You will notice that a lot of the people that get very passionately upset oftentimes find themselves in the throes of straight up Nazis. They might not personally have those kinds of perspectives, of course, but they quickly find themselves swarmed with others who do, like very openly, as a matter of fact. People being like, he's such a roach. Okay? And that's how it goes. Yeah, I know. He didn't say from the river to the sea. He said from the west of Jordan. But anyway, I think people know you for your wrong or perhaps stronger takes due to social media clips, and thus the feedback loop of confirmation bias doesn't even allow people the opportunity to view your takes without those assumptions. Yes, but the greatest way to deal with that misinformation is to show people the truth. Honestly, it's just comically easy to do character assassination against you. You've been online for so long and entrenched in so much controversy that on top of your aesthetic and political views makes it trivial to pump out a half-hour hit piece that would take basically no research. It's hard to come back from that or address it at that point. I agree. Exactly. Most criticism of you I've heard are basically he thinks America bad. He's an immigrant plus bad guy. Yeah, anybody that's spending a bunch of time making videos criticizing perspective isn't good faith. They're trying to draw in viewers. If they cared about a given issue, that would be the focus, not how Hassan is wrong about something. Thank you. Exactly. An issue that I tried to bring up with Willie Mack on his video, where Willie Mack didn't even know that BBC had called it for Israel on the Al Ahli hospital. Okay? Willie Mack made a video on me about how my coverage was wrong and didn't even realize that every single mainstream media outlet had said that Israel was responsible for this bombing. I'm sure that he left that part out of the videos that he has made since then, okay? But it doesn't matter because then XQC will watch it, and his audience is already super geared towards hating me over years and years of us duking it out. And then those guys go around and say, yeah, that's right. Muda is a friend of Willie Mack. Yeah, I saw that. That made me very sad. Hassan only gets worse. And then it's like 5 minutes in and I'm flabbergasted at the misreporting. And no, he's definitely not talking about Willie Mack on his misreporting. He's talking about my misreporting, which is shocking. The issue is that however, that it's kind of like this. If you're from a marginalized background, if you're trans, if you're gay, if you're black, right? And the entire world around you is anti-trans, anti-black, homophobic. You're a woman and everyone around you is misogynistic. You already know that, like, it's much easier to cut commentary against that position and have plenty of people agree with it. Okay? That's it. It's that simple. It's not any more difficult to assess than that. I'm obviously none of those things, but I ride for those issues. And this is the exact same. If everyone around you is from liberal all the way to right-wing reactionaries, if everyone around you has like a pro-America does whatever it wants and it's always correct, even if I reluctantly admit sometimes it's not correct, it's usually in the direction of correct. and it's much better to ensure that America maintains its hegemonic superpower status than not, because God forbid, I'm terrified of what happens if China, gets some clout, I guess, in the global scale. If that's your genuine assessment, and many people, like the overwhelming majority of individuals, it might as well be true, and I might as well be lying. It's so much easier to operate on heuristics as a reactionary than any kind of thoughtful analysis. Exactly. I like how no one gives you any leeway for being wrong when you're covering things live and you can misspeak while they're all behind edited YouTube videos. Yeah, 100%. But people don't think about it that way. They think about it as like a fully flushed out finished product when they're looking at this. Also, let me make a joke about this. This happened to the Young Turks a long time ago. Young Turks was one of the very few, but definitely the most prominent left-wing, left-leaning, progressive broadcaster at the time in independent media. Every single right-wing and every single centrist, like Sargon of Akkad, considering themselves centrist at the time, okay, they all picked every minutia apart from TYT. They belittled TYT all the time. I caught strays at the time as well. Okay? Of course. And unfortunately, when the internet is on a reactionary bend once again, due to conditions completely outside of our control, like Joe Biden being the president, things will always get worse. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of stopped watching you after some time. I didn't like how Leftovers ended, but I was upset how, like, you've been a 3-year subscriber and you're saying you didn't like how Leftovers ended. This was the Richard Wolf interview. I started watching after your Palestinian coverage. I think it's important for you to call out people that are saying wrong things regardless of their affiliation. Yeah. See, that's a great take. Do you think that I'm pro-Russia? Also, it is not my, that was not my situation. Like, I didn't do that. I watch way less because we have this talk way too often. That's not true. And this isn't hater talk. This is a struggle session. And I do think that it is relatively productive. What is this? A frank good faith criticism, just like AJ and Rose has commented? You need to make more structured content, period. I used to listen to all your takes, but over time I found myself finding other opinions of events because they were more detailed. Now when I think of Hassan, I think you are the Lord How of left-wing media. I don't know what Lord Ha means. Read mine. I want to see what you have to say for real. Let's see it. Have you ever considered it's not you that is the problem, but the community that could be the problem? Pepega, I haven't seen anyone say this yet. This community has been slowly growing with more and more very loud people who hate America on every single situation and want to see it fall instead of trying to improve the United States and the world as well. It's cringe to me and seems in bad faith. You can call me a liberal or a bootlicker, etc. What? I think America is objectively in the wrong on, even what here, Ukraine is a great example of America being morally on the right side of an issue while still being in the wrong. Does that make sense, Gunna Burns? I hope you understand that. Like, I don't know if you're looking for nuance or not, but most of this community is American. The idea that, like, these people want America to be destroyed entirely is silly. It's like saying I'm an anti-white racist. Saying the overwhelming majority of Americans in this country that are watching me want America to, like, perish entirely, myself included, okay, is as laughable as the assertion that I am an anti-white racist. Okay? Please do not fall for these incredibly primed, like, silly framing of issues that are ironically reductive while claiming that my arguments are reductive. It's a case of projection. Your haters are going to start using good faith and bad faith? I mean, probably. We know what you want to do to Jews. Wait, what? What are you saying? Are you okay, chatter? I think my biggest problem is that I yell too much and I get passionate and people can frame it as though I'm like crying or something, and that's not good. Or if I do yell, I probably should yell in a very limited capacity. That's it. I see what you're trying to do, but some people don't deserve any faith. They do. Anyway, let's get to the news. Okay? The news that it is almost 2 p.m., which means it's the top of the hour, which means there's a 3-minute ad break. Of course, that's news to you if you're unfamiliar with how the stream goes or because you've already subscribed for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, where you get 1 free Prime subscription a month. Use it on your favorite broadcaster. Hopefully that's me. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. No one is saying America is bad, thus Americans are bad. We are not nationalists. Yeah, a lot of the people that say Hassan's entire framework is America bad sound exactly like the 9/11 reactionaries. The people that were like, oh, America deserved 9/11. Dude, Hassan wants 9/11 to happen multiple times, okay? He wants 9/11 to happen over and over and over again. Is that what I said? Or was I talking about a concept such as blowback? So that's the hilarious part about this. The irony is that so many people who champion that, because it's so far in the past, are now saying the exact same criticisms as though these are valid criticisms. If folks like D-Man retires, Destiny retires, I get 30% less hate. If Destiny retires, I get 70% less hate. 1,000,000%. It's his community that is like so aggressive, and they infiltrate other communities, and like they fester and are the actual reason for so much of the bad faith criticism. And because they've been embedded in here for a very long time, some were fans, yes, 100%. Like he has a assortment of a diverse array of ideology from people from like ideological backgrounds that make no sense, like from liberals all the way to like the worst types of Nazis that all collectively unite under one very good umbrella. And that very comfortable umbrella is Hassan bad, always and forever. Anyway, it's okay though. It's crazy to ride or die for a 5'7" guy who lives to the N-word. Okay, first of all, you just described a big chunk of people who are extremely online. So I don't know why you don't understand that, but it's fine. Let's keep going. I think you're in a bit of a predicament because you have haters who are working to make you fail. You also provide ammo to these losers by simply not going with the normal reactionary perspective on any and all things. Uphill to climb. Got to be able to just operate without understanding and ignore it as best you can. Guys, there is a tremendous number of why do you think people hate on you? I think people hate on me because this is the last thing I'm going to mention, and then we're going to move on and we're going to get to the news. I think people hate on me because I'm loud, I'm passionate, I'm emotional, and the issues I talk about are obviously very hot button topics that people have really strong opinions on oftentimes. Okay? It's polarizing. I feel like Hasanabi is the most oppressed minority in modern society. It's silly. Of course I'm not. I'm a profoundly privileged person, something I willingly admit all the time, something you can see when you join the broadcast. It's just that I advocate for a intersectional worldview that also features class. So it runs against every single thing that many people are comfortable with, every single thing that like society has normalized. And so from that framework, it is much easier to just like disparage, tar and feather, or tarnish someone like myself. I have an incredibly high hurdle of morality that I must clear with every step I take. And I do believe I clear it regardless. Now, after a certain point, when all of that piles on over and over again, you just become a toxic person regardless of what you advocate for. Okay? And that is what has happened over the course of many, many years. That's it. It was never an issue for conservatives to yell at me. But once liberals who say that they're actually the real progressives come knocking down my door, championing all of the information that they regurgitate off of CNN, Wikipedia, and numerous other liberal commentators that are readily available all over mainstream media, that does genuinely present a problem. Because my goal is not to push liberals aside. My goal is to welcome them with open arms, as I have done time and time again, including even reactionaries, as long as they are charitable and as long as they want to understand a different perspective. And if they can't do it on the boundaries of the ideas that I present, they often just sidestep the ideas entirely and start talking about my character and how my character is actually weak and bad, how I've mistreated Ethan. Absolutely zero people talked about the conversation that Ethan and I had on the boundaries of like what actually was featured in that said conversation. Hundreds of thousands of views on videos simply saying Hassan is so mean to his friend. Look at him. He's such a hypocrite for not controlling his own community. Look at him. No one talked about the actual argument. I am far from the most aggressive debater, I would say. And Ethan and I are still friends. But that does not matter. And you need to, as a community, also stop fucking ripping into Ethan nonstop. As I've said it over and over again, leading up to the conversation that we had on this broadcast. You guys are so fucking stupid for doing that. You are. And it frustrates me to no fucking end. I've told you this time and time again in this time frame, just like I kept telling you, Ethan is not your enemy over and over again. And the reality is, you keep doing it. You can't shut the fuck up. And I don't know how to deal with it after a certain point. Okay? This is the issue. Nah, he was being fucking racist. Public shaming is good sometimes. This is the problem. You and I are at a disagreement. You and I are at a disagreement. We are at odds on this. I've told you this time and time again. Okay? Throughout that entire fucking month. And then here comes the secondary arguments, which is you're only defending him because he's your friend. You're an unprincipled person. I know. A lot of long-term subs get way too overprotective. I know. Should have never brought it up. Unban that chatter. I just never liked Ethan, but I wouldn't shit on him on Twitter or anything. Okay, take an hour off too for demanding that I unban another chatter. That's not a ban. That's time off. Okay? A little bit of time off is not the end of the world. I'm always in this weird predicament where I'm simultaneously defending my friends in an unprincipled manner, but also so critical of them that I make them cry by bullying them. Very frustrating. So here, 18 days in. 18 days in. Let's get serious for a second. I have reformed. I think I'm doing a good job with the way I carry myself. Why can't you? Because the reality is, you also have to, if you're going to ride or die as a card carrying Hasanabi head, you have to also carry yourself in a very specific manner. So please do that. Remember, on October 8th, the first thing that people did, because they couldn't come after any of the statements that I made, was to find chatters in like the depths of my subreddit before they could get moderated out and the unhinged things that they were saying. To be like, look at Hassan. Look at how he is. So if the overwhelming majority of this community is like championing certain slants that are silly, yes, a lot of people are going to say Hassan is the reason why his community is like this. So please carry yourself a little bit better so it makes it easier for me to moderate personally. That's it. And then you look at their post histories and see some interesting things those people have in common. Yeah. There's a big portion of this community that think that what YouTubers' opinions matter a lot more than they actually do. You shouldn't give a fuck about what Ethan thinks. He's a meme YouTuber. It's like getting mad at FaZe Banks. Only difference is Ethan is your friend. Thank you. That is precisely my point. And he also didn't just like sour from, like a lot of people I think made the false assertion that he just wanted to cowardly not talk about Israel-Palestine because his position is like more reactionary. No, I think he just soured from politics across the board. Which, you know, if it makes him happy to not do that, then that's fine. But the reason why he soured from covering politics, despite the fact that he has like a relatively open-minded position, okay, a relatively open-minded position on most issues with some exceptions, okay, what you have to remember is that this community has to be more forgiving and more understanding of people's bigotry or people's framework or people's modus operandi. Okay? This is not about Ethan at all. And this is not a stun lock either. For those of you going, I can't believe you're doing a stun lock again. Okay? This is not a stun lock. This is something that I hold firmly as a fundamental value that I care about. Be kind to individuals, be ruthless to systems, as the late, great Michael Jamal Brooks said. A lot of you oftentimes don't do that. And of course, there are instances, and no, this is not me. For the record, where is it? This chatter said, oh, are you turning on your chat because of the criticisms that your haters make? Like, no. I don't know if you're new here. But this is something I do all the time. This is something I have yelled about all the time. Time and time again. Leftist politics has a tendency to engage in purity spirals. I despise purity spirals because my goal, which many people will say, is clout chasing, but my goal is to bring normies on board and change their attitude. That requires charitability from them for me, but it also requires charitability from me to them. Okay? That's it. That's it. So, you know, you should be more charitable as well. Your chat is okay with Adam Friedland and he's more conventionally problematic than Ethan for a reason. I agree. Yeah. It's a great example. It's vibes based in many instances as well. It's unprincipled and it's vibes based. Politics grinds people down easily. Same reason politically based communities have such an ebb and flow of new and old members. A very aggressive approach to things can grind them down even faster and be more off-putting than the actual streamer saying something. Yeah. Pretty weird to ignore how Ethan was genuinely grossly racist to that guy Margbar on Twitter, that he said he'd get killed in Gaza for his lifestyle choices. Yeah, that was literally the same as like a Libs of TikTok tweet. And he noticed that it was wrong. He noticed that it was wrong immediately, and he took it down. He even apologized for it too, if I'm not mistaken. The problem is you're still holding on to that, okay? Because it makes you feel better to be like to re-justify the picture that you've painted. This conversation is not about Ethan. I don't care. We're done. Okay? We're done. We're not talking about Ethan anymore. Please stop. It's literally about not wanting to forgive and not having empathy. You're failing to see the broader picture. Okay? Please listen to what I'm doing. Listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. I have been canceled by Black Twitter for a tweet I did not even tweet about Nicki Minaj that you would have to really think twice about to assume is actually racist. Okay? Do you think that the Barbs were correct in that moment for immediately, desperately grabbing onto anything and everything they could to say that I'm actually racist? I'm a white man who's being racist, as Nicki Minaj was defending Tucker Carlson's politics? Or do you think they were desperately, doing the same uncharitable approach that many people do online? We should be better. Okay? We should be better. Be normal. Exactly. I always say that. I'm sorry I'm a Barb. It's okay. I've made peace with the Barbs, at least on my end. People make mistakes. Are you saying that be the kind of people who are accused of racism, or someone who's actively being racist to you? No. I'm saying don't hold on to people's past mistakes. That's all I'm stating. And be more charitable. Be more charitable across the board. Your job, if you're leftist, if you're socialist, if you're progressive, is to put your best foot forward. I'm trying to do that as best as I can, and I hope you can too. No more so you're saying. So if Destiny said sorry, you'd be cool with that? Yes. Yes. If he came out and apologized for literally fucking aligning with every and any Nazi that he could fucking come to terms with, and directing his community to cyber stalk me for the past fucking 5 years, and have entire paste bins full of like clips out of context that they can readily throw at any conversation, and try to literally brigade any and every mention of me online. If he was genuinely apologetic, I absolutely would take that charitably. Doesn't mean I'd be friends with him. I used to be friends with him. I was friends with him because I thought he was a reformed libertarian. I knew his past. I've defended him. I've defended him time and time again. There are multiple reasons as to why I go out of my way to not mention Destiny ever. Part of it is because, his community thrives on that, so they can cut a lot of content around it and be like, oh yeah, Hassan is talking about you. He must be rent-free after like 1,500 videos that he's made on me over the course of the past 4 years. But the other reason is because I just want to not talk about it. I think it's very unproductive to consistently harp on like every minor or major failure that he's had. You think I don't see it all over my fucking timeline? I do. Plenty of people yell at him. He openly tries to make you a lolcow. Fuck him and his own Washington Style fans. He's not the first to openly try to lolcow me. Okay? Like, come on. Yeah. It comes off like streamer drama. I appreciate these stick to better issues. You have good arguments on your side. No need for character assassination. All right. Let's get to the news, finally. Thank you to Macy's for the fat playlist. Did he send a playlist? I didn't even see it. I did not see that. If he had. All right. He did. The only good linker. True. He is the only good linker. So Benjamin Netanyahu, in a kind of mistranslated tweet, had this to say.
For 30 years, I am very consistent, and I'm saying something very simple. This conflict is not on the lack of a state of Palestinian, but the existence of a state, the Jewish state. Every area that we evacuate, we receive terrible terror against that. It happened in South Lebanon, in Gaza, and also Judea and Samaria, which we did it. And therefore, I clarify that in other arrangement, any other arrangement, in the future, the state of Israel have to control on the entire area from the river to the sea. This is.
So he didn't use from the river to the sea, as far as I understand, according to Myrav Zonzin. Obviously, I don't have any way of I don't speak Hebrew. She said the translation is wrong. He said west of the Jordan, but that de facto means from the river to the sea. Now, of course, this also champions Likud's former creed, so it doesn't really, it's not really a change of pace, right? But we already knew that. I think reasonable people knew this already.
Is what happens when you have sovereignty. This truth,
Israel's actions show what the goal is, right? I mean, that's it. Israel's actions have always been directed in that direction. And yes, when Israel says it, it is genocidal. I need to mention this more, I guess, more times than I thought I had to. But when Israel says from the river to the sea, Israel will be all you can see, or whatever. There's many different versions of this. That is openly genocidal. Israel is the oppressor in this situation. When the oppressed say, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, that is a slogan of emancipation. And it is mind-boggling that still so many people refuse to see that. Dude, keep your political shit to yourself. Respect. What does this have to do with ESO? You're right. I should stop talking about politics altogether. So, anyone and everyone, I hope, anyone and everyone, I hope, that got swept up in this weird dynamic that claimed, that championed the cause and said oh, I'm pro-Palestine, but the fact that they're saying from the river to the sea makes me feel bad is wrong, and I hope they can see that they were wrong. Okay? Always. This is why I maintained my position firmly. Okay? Vivek owning the meme what? Yes, he's a white supremacist. Yeah, he is a dog to the white man. Okay? That's what he is. So it's not shocking to me that he would lean into the meme. Anyway, the whole from the river to the sea conversation was incredibly performative, and unfortunately it worked to derail. That's usually what the purpose is. You called an Indian a dog? Sounds pretty racist to me. Yes, I'm the racist one for saying that this brown man is performatively aligning himself with white supremacist memes that were launched against him. Yeah. I didn't say he's a dog. Context matters. He's a dog to the white man. And what I mean by that is that he is a servant of white supremacy. That is why he's doing that. That's it. Anyway. Please hate crime me so I can invade Poland with Germany's permission. What? Well, yeah. Irony is that for months now, American politicians and pundits, Jewish community leaders, students have obsessed over from the river to the sea in censuring Rashida Tlaib and accusing pro-Palestinian activists of genocidal language. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister of Israel says, to be clear, by the way, when Rashida Tlaib said from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and when Mark Lamont said it, theirs was a call for freedom in that space. Netanyahu's from the river to the sea is a much worse, a call for a permanent military occupation. 100%. It's always been the case, and it will always continue to be the case. And people will try to desperately act like that is not what's going on. People have their own personal interests in every subject. They are going to defend their personal positions, and they're going to, avoid seeing a broader picture regularly. This guy might get demoted. Yeah. Look out, Hassan. You might lose your show. Just wanted to start off with that one real quick and then move on to Pakistan carrying out deadly military strikes on Iran.
Iran is demanding answers amid an escalating spat with Pakistan. Overnight, Pakistan launched retaliatory strikes on targets in southeastern Iran, just across their shared border. Pakistan claims it took out a number of militants, but Iran says mostly women and children were killed. This is coming just a day after Iran said it fired missiles and drones at militant strongholds inside Pakistan. Local officials say 2 children were killed there. CNN's Ivan Watson is following all of these details for us. Ivan, these really are, and this is an extraordinary moment with Pakistan and Iran launching strikes against each other. What does it mean for the region?
Well, I think it just underscores, Sarah, how volatile the Middle East and Central Asia are right now, because even 48 hours ago, you couldn't have imagined these 2 neighbors getting into this tit-for-tat, deadly cross-border missile strike situation, because the Prime Minister of Pakistan was meeting with the Foreign Minister of Iran in Davos on Tuesday. The 2 navies, they were conducting joint naval exercises at the beginning of this week. And then out of nowhere, the Iranians fire these missiles into Pakistani territory, saying they're hitting militants who've carried out attacks inside Iran in the past. And it totally shocks the Pakistani ruling establishment, which calls it basically a disruption of Pakistan's sovereignty, says at least 2 children were killed in the strikes, and there are calls for retaliation. And that's what a number of hours ago the Pakistan...
Don't they both hate America, or does Pakistan have some sort of U.S.-backed group? Listen, both of these countries have a litany of issues, okay, in their domestic affairs and even in their foreign policy. But let's just say that Pakistan, well, let's think about it this way. Pakistan has nukes. Do with that information what you will. No, that's not a that's not a Hasanabi doctrine thing. Yes. Pakistan is a U.S. client state, but unlike Japan or Korea, they do the dirty work without receiving the benefit of the industry that Japan and Korea did. Yes. Pakistan is a U.S. client state. There's no better example of Pakistan being a U.S. client state than like slightly deviating away from American hegemonic positions and getting punished severely for it in the form of a light military coup that has been ongoing in Pakistan currently, where Imran Khan and his supporters, and now you might not like Imran Khan, okay? You don't have to be the biggest Imran Khan fan, but the idea that like all of his supporters are currently being arrested after mass protests, and all of his like party members are being arrested and being forced to not participate in the electoral process in Pakistan without America ever mentioning it, and this is something that has been ongoing for a long time now, should get you to think about it a little bit, get you to think about it a little bit further. Not to mention harboring Osama bin Laden completely to the knowledge of the U.S. Yeah, we're not even going to talk about that part. But yes, that definitely is interesting as well. Pakistan's an interesting country. That's all I'm going to say. This tit for tat isn't specifically about Iran or Pakistan. It's about the Baloch people that Iran and Pakistan are fucking over and have been fucking over for decades. Both Iran and Pakistan are trying to quell the Baloch separatist movements, which is why Iran attacked Balochistan in Pakistan and vice versa.
Damn, this guy's good.